Okay, all right. Here's what I want to do today. I want to do a quick review if you want to post on your Chromebooks and whatnot. I want to do a few notes, then give you plenty of time where you can work on your homework because I know that assignment, page 10 to 11, is due tomorrow. Real quick, a reminder. That first assignment, they're going to give you how many total hours you worked and what your rate is. So maybe your rate that you're working on this is $9.50. So what you have to do is calculate what your overtime hours is. That first assignment, it doesn't matter if it's like a Sunday or Saturday. It's time and a half. That's all they want you to calculate. So like on this particular example, you're working a full 40 hours and 10 hours overtime. That's all you have to do in that first assignment. Now, you have to calculate what your total pay is going to be in that term. So $9.50 for the 40 hours a week. So you have to multiply those, figure out that. But for the 10, you have to figure out the $9.50 times 1.5, time and a half. Because since you're working overtime, you get a different pay scale. So just a reminder that if it's a Sunday or a holiday, you'd have to do double time. But on that first page, at page 10, they didn't really tell you that you're working Saturdays or Sundays. So $9.50 times 1.5, this is $14.25. That's your pay per hour for overtime. You have to multiply those and figure that out. Does that make sense how you're going to get these two numbers? I know that they give you a weird chart. It's just basically doing that. Questions at all about the first assignment? Page 10. Perfect. Page 11, they give you story problems. That's the one where you have to pay attention to what they're giving you. Maybe they're telling you you're working 37 hours that week. 37 hours. And you're working 4 hours on Sunday. 4 hours Sunday. So the idea is that this would be your normal rate. This would be double time pay. Your 4 hours on the Sunday. Even though you didn't work 40 hours, it's still double time because it's a Sunday or a holiday. That's just the way that they're working it. So whatever your pay scale is. So if you're doing the $9.50, you take this times $9.50, right? This one over here, $9.50 times 2 is that $19? You have to multiply that by $19 because that's double time pay. $9.50 times 2. You have to multiply those. Okay, makes sense what you're doing on those on page 11 stuff versus page 10. Okay. New stuff today. I want to introduce 2 problems. 2. That's it. 2 problems today. I'll put them on each marker board here, and then we're done. I'll give you, 20, 30 minutes where you can just kind of work on your assignment today. That's all I want to make sure of. Because I want to make sure you get it done. You don't have any excuses. I'd rather have you get it done in class than worry about taking it home and you forget how to do it. So let's talk about your 2 types of problems today. These are brand new. We're in section 1.5 today. Section 1.5. Now obviously we've been talking about wages, right? The idea is that what we're talking about today is tips and piecework wages. Now what that means, because these are the 2 other types of jobs that you could have. Tips if you're a waiter, waitress, anything where you're getting, not a commission, commission's different. It's where you're getting paid extra money for a service. So like maybe you're in foods, right? You're a waiter, you're getting tips for that. The idea is that you, whatever your normal hourly rate is, typically hourly rate for a waiter is really bad. It's really low. I think minimum wage on waiting is like $5.25 per hour. I remember when I was in school, I think it was like $2.70 or something weird where that was your hourly rate if you're in foods like a waitress. But then your tips are the extra money. Tips is just something you add to your total. And you didn't have to put tips on taxes. It was just free cash off the table. So that was kind of nice. That's where you'd make up a huge difference. Like if you work at a certain restaurant, like let's say the Oak in Clear Lake, or you work at the Viking in Ventura, you can make some serious tips in a night, especially with how many people come in, the type of night that you're working, if it's a holiday, certain nights of the week, like Wednesdays when it's like bike night, or Fridays and Saturdays, you can get tons of tips. So you could make way more money doing this than a typical job where you work, 9 to 5. But again, it's hit and miss, because maybe you just have really bad tippers that day. Because tips are totally optional, right? My feeling is like, if you're going to give a tip to, a waitress, you should already have that in mind. You're doing that before you walk in the restaurant. Like, I'm gonna tip them this amount, 20%, 10%, whatever you do, okay, of your bill. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But tips are on the top. So let's say you worked, 30 hours that week. Okay, you'd still calculate what your hourly rate is, right? So your $5.25 times 30 hours a week, you're still getting paid $157 that week, which doesn't sound like much, but you can make a ton of tips. Maybe, on Monday, you made, $30 in tips. Tuesday, you made $45. Wednesday was bike night, maybe you made $150. Like, it's totally random depending on, how many people come in the restaurant that day. Certain days you get more money. Well, if these are all your tips, you have to add that to your total. So $157.50. You're going to add the 30, add the 45, and add the 150, and so you actually end up making $382 that week. That ain't bad for working 30 hours that week, and you're not putting in full time. Maybe that was more pay than you going and working full time at Hy-Vee.
So how much would that be like an hour then?
Oh, okay. So total, let's say that's your total, right? And you're taking that and you're going to divide by 30 hours. You're getting $12.75 an hour. In theory, this pay can be way more than you think it is. Like, I know people that they went to college and stuff, but they ended up just like bartending and waitressing because they made way more money in where they lived at. Like Des Moines, you can make a ton of money in those areas because there's more people. So the tips were like, their pay scale was off the chart compared to what they normally get. They couldn't go find a job that would pay in that type of realm. But again, this is depending on the customers coming in and basically you, like how well do you serve them. That person's gonna have a bad day. Maybe you did everything in the world for them, they just had a bad day. And the worst part is, sometimes it's not even your fault. It could be the cooks in the kitchen that's actually causing the problem. They're too slow. And you don't get a tip because of it. What I always say, if you're in the waitressing, because I knew a bunch of my friends always waitressed and they were doing all that, if they got tips, they would always give a chunk of that, like 25% of that tip, they'd go give to the cook. Because that cook is giving them that money. The cook gets paid per hour, but that cook, if they're doing their job, they're getting you the tips that you deserve. Because they're getting that food out as quick as possible to you. And that will keep that cook loyal to you, and they'll always get your order when you need it. So that's just something that's just a little pet peeve. That was just like words of wisdom from my friends that were in that type of business. That was just something they did. They didn't have to, because they were making bank. They were making serious money. So, that's tips, right? Now, the second type of work would be more like manufacturing. I don't know if we have a business in this area. Larson Manufacturing Clear Lake used to do this, but they've obviously closed the doors there. They used to pay per piece work that you worked on. So let's say that you're getting 35 cents per item you manufacture on the line. Okay? This is per item produced. They used to do this at Larson Manufacturing, where if you produce certain windows for them, they paid per window you produced. And that goes in like a storm door window. And so let's say you could crank out, 1,700 items that night. Because maybe it was something simple, like a window is you just like put like a little bead on it so that you can install it into the window. Right? It was really easy to produce it. Well, the idea is that what you do is you just multiply those two items together, right? 1,700 times 35 cents. You made $595 then. You just multiply the two numbers together. Okay? It could be as easy as that. Now, obviously, you're not going to produce that type of number every night, but it was just maybe that's what you had. So that was Larson Manufacturing. If you're doing windows, like stained glass windows, they had certain things you could do. What was another thing that manufacturing that was around here at the time? I wonder. There's no ice cream shops in this area. Some ice cream shops used to pay per item that you serve. No, it's the number of items you're producing times whatever the cost is for that item. That's kind of the idea. There's not too many jobs, I think, in this area, but there is jobs out there that does this. One of the jobs that I knew of that was kind of like this was my father was a semi-truck driver. He was a professional driver for a semi-truck. He got paid per mile at one of his jobs that he delivered. That was awesome. but when you hear what his pay scale was, it was like 15 cents a mile. But you're like, that's not that much, 15 cents a mile. But when you think about, he did 250,000 miles in like 5 years, he was getting paid some serious money, right? So like, and that was on top of like his other costs that they'd given. Like, so little things like that you don't think about. But that was probably more realistic for this area, truck driving. You could get some serious money doing that. They make good money doing that. Questions on the two topics though, piece-wise and tips. Tomorrow we're going to continue with this, like how to calculate a tip. Something that's, I know it's stupid, but it's something that it's kind of nice if you know how to do it. You can do it on your cell phone like super fast and know what you owe and how much money your bill will be total. We'll talk about all that stuff tomorrow. Okay? Questions? Okay. You have the rest of the time today. You can work in page 10, page 11. I know maybe you already got it done yesterday. You get free time, you can work, you can ask questions. I want to give you time in class so you have time.